Welcome into the Two for Talking podcast. My name is Corey Tusick. I've got the great Josh Yohe and the great Joe Bartnick in here. They're the talent ready to talk Penguins and just general NHL topics. But I got to start, Joe. You had performed in the same place, were you around the same area of the crease that Patrick Hornquist shot the puck off of Pekka Rinne into the net?
Yes, I played Bridgestone Arena this past weekend, opening for Bill Burr Friday night. And it was funny when I said I'm from Pittsburgh, there was, a quarter of the crowd like, but then when I say, hockey is my favorite sport, I got a larger cheer than in some cities. But they actually cheered for hockey in Columbus, which is so nice of them because they haven't done diddly poo squat in 20 years as a franchise. But yeah, I spent the weekend with Bill. We played Columbus and we played Nashville. And then we almost didn't play Winston-Salem last night because a tree fell down and knocked out the power an hour and a half before the show. There was a blackout.
Whoa.
And we pushed the show by like an hour and a half, but then we got to do it, which was really cool. But if we weren't going to get it done, we were going to come back. Bill said he's still going to come back, and we're going to play the Greensboro Coliseum, the home of the first Starcade. Because remember, folks, we were in Jim Crockett country, so I did my wrestling. I did all my wrestling jokes.
Yeah.
See, I feel very unimpressive because Joe's out, touring the country. I am at my girlfriend's boss's house just being Kato Kalin for a few days in West Palm Beach. So I feel like I'm not contributing enough, but I'm not complaining. So
yeah,
Josh, Yohe, when I am doing nothing, which is most of my life, all I really do is go on stage. I'm consumed by your work ethic. All I do is read what you do. So please have a few days in South Florida. Enjoy yourself because I've lived off of your hustle from September to like a week ago. I literally Jesus, he's writing another column. And how many times can you say the power play sucks? Josh figured it out for 4 months.
It was tough. I did what I had to do. I had good material in that regard.
Well, and speaking of having a lot, not a lot to talk about and making it difficult to write. I mean, the Penguins really not a lot of news this week. So we're gonna start with the NHL playoffs. In second segment, we'll get into the Penguins stuff, and Sully coaching in the Gary Bettman Invitational and everything. But the NHL playoffs in general, we've got a Game 7. I'm happy to say we have a Game 7. I texted you guys and said I fell asleep during Game 5. That great finish of the Vancouver. I mean, I think this has been the series of the second round, the Vancouver Oilers series. So who do you guys got in Game 7? Because I mean, this really is like a huge moment, I feel like, in Connor McDavid's career.
It is. I don't know if Josh is as good Wi-Fi if he checked his phone in the last 2 hours, but the only man I trust equally to Josh Yohe is Elliot Friedman. And he is reporting that Brock Besser is out with blood clots.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, came across a couple of hours ago, and I mean, you feel sick to your stomach for anybody who's having to deal with something serious like that. And from what's been reported, it's not life-threatening, but he's not playing in Game 7 tomorrow night. And he's been one of Vancouver's best players, obviously, in this postseason. This is a huge deal in this series when all of a sudden it feels like Edmonton has so much momentum after a dominant performance in Game 6. Now Vancouver is not only without its number one goalie, but without its most gifted goal scorer. This strikes me as a problem for the Canucks, Joe.
Yeah, I really was thinking, they're going to get back to Vancouver. They got the mojo. They got the hidden juice. Ricky T is going to dial one up. Shelovs with a big save, and they win 2-1. It just seems like the VIG has shifted now that Besser's hurt. I mean, maybe the Pettersson line, they got a goal last game with Hoaglander's first goal of the playoffs. Maybe they can get something up there. Maybe Sam Lafferty's a hero, Pittsburgh kid. JT Miller's been a god. Who knows? I don't know, but I don't like Besser being because a year ago Besser disappeared anyway. But this season was a resurgence for him. You felt so happy for the guy. He's been dominating the playoffs, and now he's out. And man, it's got to be life-threatening because he's missing Game 7.
Yeah, I mean, they say it's non-life threatening, but blood clots are blood clots. Like if it's a blood clot thing, that's a scary situation, obviously. Yeah, you feel awful for him. And I'll be honest, I am clearly cheering for the Vancouver Canucks. I mean, between Jim Rutherford, Rick Tocchet, Sergei Gonchar on the coaching staff. These are some of my favorite people in hockey. So it's not very. Usually, I'm in my old age watching playoff series. I'm pretty objective and don't really get emotionally invested. But I admit I love all those guys so much. I have to cheer for them, and I think Tocchet has done a magnificent job in this series. And I don't think anybody really thinks Vancouver is the better team. They might be the deeper team, but when you consider the power play that Edmonton has, what McDavid and Draisaitl are doing in the playoffs again. I think anybody objectively would say Edmonton's probably going to win that series, and yet here we are. Vancouver gets the Game 7 on their home ice. It's going to be unbelievable theater. That fan base in British Columbia, they're a little goofy, but God love them. The intensity and the passion is real. I hope they don't set the city on fire again if they lose like they did in 2011. But
Win or lose.
Listen, I don't think there's any pressure on them, really. Everyone thinks Edmonton's the better team, and the pressure's on McDavid and Draisaitl. But if you ask me who I think's going to win, my heart is certainly pulling for Vancouver, but I still would pick Edmonton if I were a betting man.
Yeah, I mean, I'd bet for the Riot either way. But
Absolutely.
It's like Michael Scott. Either way, I'm going to burn this mother down.
I mean, it's hard to bet against Jesus and Leon in one game. They got their reprise. They've come back, but there's just something about Ricky Tocchet's team that goes through the wall for him. That
Yes.
And there's more guys. I mean, you take away Jesus and Leon, there's more guys on Vancouver's team that I feel that can come up with a big goal than there are on Edmonton's. Just that. I mean, I've always been a Connor Garland guy. I've always been a Lafferty guy. There's just guys in that team that just seem to do stuff when you least expect it.
No, they've been a great story all season. Expectations weren't particularly high entering the season for the Canucks, let's be honest. And they've been a great story. They are deep. They really are. And you're right. There are a lot of potential heroes in that locker room just because that is such of a deep hockey team. I will say this for them. It's such of a cliche when you're talking about big hockey games. But in this case, they better not fall behind in this game. And I know they came back in Game 1 when they were down 4-1 or whatever. I don't think that's going to happen again. Edmonton's one of those teams. You give them a 1 or 2 goal lead, you just might not catch them when they start stretching their legs.
Right.
But if you're Vancouver and you get off to a good start, you take a lead, the pressure that's going to be on the Oilers, who have never really done much at all in the playoffs in this era, it intensifies greatly. So I think the first period of this game is just massive for psychological reasons.
Yeah, and they don't want to get Skinner too comfortable because Skinner is when he's good for like 5 games in a row. So he's kind of starting to get on his roll, if you will. The other, we talk about Gonch a lot. We love Gonch. How much credit he needs to be given for kind of resuscitating Tyler Myers' career?
Yeah.
I mean Tyler Myers was roadkill until Gonchar got there
5 years ago.
Yeah,
I know.
He just bumped up his yearly like $2 million a year since Gonchar showed up. I think he's a competent defenseman now.
It's funny you say that because I was watching I think it was Game 5, and I was thinking to myself about Tyler Myers. Like, man, remember when he was really good for those 2 years? That was like a decade ago, and he's kind of sucked ever since. Like, he doesn't look too bad out there to me. Like, someone's getting through to him clearly. And we know Sergei Gonchar knows how to coach defensemen. Another guy, that Ian Cole, is in Vancouver now, who, of course, has worked with him before. I remember talking with Ian Cole many years ago. This was during the Cup years. I think it was in 2017. He said, hey, he was talking about Jacques Martin. He goes, I have all the respect in the world for Jacques. Like, he's been a really good coach in this league. He's great. And he was coaching the Penguins defensemen. He said, it's nothing against Jacques, but like, trust me, Gonch is the one that kind of coaches us. He said he's the one that really makes us go. You talk with any of the defensemen on those Penguins teams, and I mean, my God, they will all tell you Sergei Gonchar made them so much better. So I really think it's a fabulous coaching staff they have put together. And I think that's been evident in this series because the Oilers, like, you just kind of keep waiting for the Oilers to erupt, and they finally did in Game 6. But listen, it's a one-game showdown. We all know what that means. And one thing for Vancouver, we do often see in Game 7s, the NHL referees, they like to put the whistles in the pocket. They don't like calling a lot of penalties in Game 7. If you're Vancouver, you want like Kerry Fraser or Don Koharski or Andy Van Helleman calling this game because they wouldn't call any penalties in this spot. And if you're Vancouver, you want as much 5-on-5 play as you can get. Because if you get a lot of 5-on-5 play, I really think they have a chance. If Edmonton gets like 4 or 5 power plays in this game, I forget about it.
Exactly. I want to make one more point about Gonchar because, I guess 1.5. First of all, Susie now is a very good defenseman. But, I liked Hronek when he was in Detroit. I watched a lot of Red Wing games, me and Frage. But I thought losing him was a mistake for Stevie Y. Like, I think it was a serviceable 3, 4, 5. How about he's partners with Quinn Hughes? Like he's a 25-minute guy now with Gonchar. Right. I mean, I'll get off. Gonchar doesn't need me to, I will say Gonchar should be in the Hall of Fame. But that's a whole nother argument for summer program.
Yes, he should.
But yeah, it's interesting.
From Ontario, he would be, I assure you.
Oh, I say that. That's exactly what I say. Yeah, if he was Canadian, he'd be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But can we go to the Eastern?
Yeah, I was going to. I mean, yeah, I wanted to go. I was going to reference the color. I got the Colorado
your Nordique shirt on there.
Nordique shirt today. I had to throw that on.
Beautiful shirt.
But yeah.
Oh, did we talk last week? Was now? So, I guess it was this week was when we lost the great Val Nikushkin, right?
Well,
we haven't had a chance to talk about this.
We were recording, or we kind of, Josh, you kind of hit on it a little bit and said, about like the hotel and stuff like that.
No, yeah, but that was from last year.
I know, but then like we released it, and then like 5 hours later.
Yeah. Oh, 5. Yeah. Well, I just have to say, why are you testing that man now? Are you kidding me? He's up for a Conn Smythe. Test him at the parade. Don't test him in the seconds. I mean, come on. Clip that cut, Corey. I mean, seriously, you're really messing with a man's life. He's like tied with Hyman for the league in goals. What are you doing?
You know what's interesting too? I don't know. Like the league is so quiet about situations like this, and I understand there's serious stuff involved, but there's no transparency at all. I wonder if he just did randomly test positive, or did somebody in the organization kind of say something to the league, or was somebody in the organization worried about him because they knew what was going on? Like there's a lot of potential angles here, but one thing we could not deny: the second he was out, the Avs were done. Like they were already playing without their captain, Gabriel Landeskog. They already had a shaky goaltender, even though I didn't think he was bad in the series. But to lose that guy too, who I think was leading the league in scoring, goal scoring, I think in the playoffs, right?
I think he was tied with Hyman, right?
Yeah, I mean he is so good. I certainly felt for the rest of the Avs because they already had their hands full playing against this Dallas Stars team that is an absolute machine. And just losing him, I think, was just too much for them to overcome. But man, what an explosive story. I don't remember anything happening like this right in the middle of a postseason to an all-star caliber player.
Except last season. When it happened. Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
I mean, it literally happened like a year later. But that was like, whatever happened, and he had a problem in his hotel room, and this was a failed test. And I'll repeat what I said. Why are you testing the man in the league? It wasn't like he had a sombrero and was a healthy scratch and something's wrong with him. He's out there on McKinnon's line. He scored 10 goals. I don't think there's a problem. Give him more. Win the cup. Test him at the parade. Seriously.
Well, whatever he was doing was working, I guess.
Yeah,
that's true.
There's a difference. What do they do in the 80s?
Ben's cousin probably called in a scare. Hey, did you see the cushion? You better test him. I mean, it's it seems like dirty pool. I swear to God.
It could be that because he's already been in the league substance abuse program, that those guys might get tested just all the time compared to somebody who's never had any of these issues. I'm assuming that's the case. And boy, what happens with him moving forward? He's suspended 6 months. If you're the Avs, do you look to deal him now? Do you think maybe we got to get this guy out of Denver for his own good? I don't know what they will do, but boy, it would be something if this Avalanche team, and they should still be good for a long time, but as good as they are, they've only got one cup. And 2 years ago, I would have told you that team's going to win 2 or 3. Now they've got a roadblock.
I mean, I said 3 years ago, I love that Nikushkin guy when he was in Dallas. What happened to him? Then I said last week he was like Roy Hobbs. He reappeared in Colorado. Now you kind of know what happened. I just wish him the best. I really do. I love watching that guy play.
Yeah.
To me, he reminds me of Yager. Like not quite the ass, but it may be more handsy. I just love that guy.
Yeah. No, he's a great hockey player. That was just an explosive story. I mean, it really was that is a legitimate cup contender. But when you lose that guy in the middle of a tough series, man, it was just too much to overcome. And Dallas got by, and boy, I'm not so sure they aren't the favorite to win the whole thing right now, Joe. That Dallas Stars team is loaded.
They were my dark horse that became everyone's dark horse, so they kind of weren't underrated. They were kind of like Sasha Barkov. You can't be the most underrated player if everyone says you're underrated. So Dallas is everybody's dark horse. I love the way they play. Like I said, they have black bananas, they have green bananas, they have all the bananas in between. They got everything. Their kids are playing well. And Miro Heiskanen, if it wasn't for Cal McCarr, Heiskanen would be the greatest defenseman in the league right now. I mean, really, he looked incredible.
He is really special. And boy, the last few games, Ottinger was just in the zone. And if he's going to play like that in net, I don't know how you beat them 4 out of 7. I know all the teams that are still left are really good. Anybody can beat anybody, I realize. But I think Dallas is probably the deepest, most complete team. Maybe Florida, you can make an argument. But I think that when I think of Dallas, I just think to myself, this team has no weakness. Like, where do you try to attack them? And you look, and Tanev has been such a huge pickup for them. He's so good defensively. You just look at their blue line. You look at the young star power. You look at, you still have got, Sagan and Ben who are playing in Pavelski. These guys are playing at a really high level. They just feel like a Stanley Cup team to me.
Oh, yeah. Rupe Hentz is like young Malkin. And the Pasadena kid, I love what, and I love the way they play. I love everything about the Stars, and I'm going to be rooting for Ricky T if he gets there. If it's Edmonton, I want the Stars to win, even though I wouldn't be upset if Jesus won, just because move him along. I would hate to him be stung forever with never winning anything. So let him.
That's right, and I think he'll win one at some point. We should probably, while we're talking about the Stars, mention Wyatt Johnston as well, because this kid. Yeah. I mean, he just turned 21 the other day. Like, are you kidding me? How good is he going to be in 4 years? This is like a scary hockey player. Like all these guys we mentioned, we didn't even mention him. Maybe he's been their best player.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, what you think? It may be him or Heiskanen, or I guess Odger for the Conn Smythe, right? He's got to be up there.
He's got to be up there. Trying to look up the odds.
Yeah, he's in the conversation for sure. So I will say this for Dallas. I mean, look at the road they've already had to go on just to make it this far.
That's what we said. That's what we said last week. Yeah. Should we
Vegas? And you lose the first 2 games at home, and then you beat Vegas 4 out of 5. Then you take out the Nate Dogg and the Avalanche. Holy cow! I mean, that has been an unbelievably difficult road.
Took him out too. Should we move? We'll move east.
What did you guys? Which one do you want to go with first, Carolina, or do you want to go with Boston?
I want to go with Carolina because I have a new nickname now. Regular season Rod.
Hey, there we go. I like it.
That.
I mean, what?
He just got rewarded.
What did he got rewarded? Did he get?
He's got a new contract too. That was the report that came out last night. A 5-year deal, I think, a 5-year extension to stay in Raleigh. So,
jeez.
Well, and you're right. I mean, it's the same old thing with them every year, and they're really good. But you could just see in that Rangers, even I give them credit for fighting back the way they did, but the Rangers just have top tier talent that Carolina doesn't have.
No,
and that's always the case with them.
And my two hot takes for the week is one, like one was my pick from last week. Thanks to Hans Christian Frederick Andersen's fairy tales, 2 bad goals, 2 bad losses. I think Jari Fernatius is on the table.
No, I
mean,
that.
Before Jari Anderson, it could be a toss-up. Now you got to say Jari. I mean, is probably better in a big game than Anderson now, right? I mean,
well, Anderson was really bad in Game 6,
right?
And that's the second goal he allowed when they were up 3-1. I mean, that was just an indefensible goal to allow. It turned the tide of the entire game. He's just a very average NHL goalie. It's always ever been. And, I'm watching this game the other night thinking, Carolina, you fancy yourself a cup contender. You're always one of the best teams in the regular season. But how can you ignore the goaltending position to this point? I mean, you got Anderson playing a game against Shesterkin. Like, on paper, the Rangers and Canes are pretty even, but then you look between the pipes and it's no contest. You got a world-class goalie against a guy who's been an average goalie for a decade. And I think ultimately Shesterkin was the difference, and he gives the Rangers a chance against anybody. It won't be easy for them against Florida, certainly, but when Shesterkin's playing at a high level, the Rangers are tough to beat because you're not going to shut down their offense completely. They're going to score some goals.
I agree with you on that. His one goal was the Linda Cohn goal. Like when Linda Cohn says, I could have stopped that. I mean, I don't know how that went in. I mean, it was literally like when there's a glitch in Sega. Like the puck, how'd it go in? Like, there's no way it should have went in. I mean, that goal was ridiculous.
You mean the one that happened right whenever I texted you guys and said, hey, I think the Rangers are starting to, feel it a little bit. And then it was like, I saw one, I was like, oh, crap. And then the other
I think it was exactly that point. But I will say this, if we can veer into the series, then we'll go back. I think what you said about Shesterkin, and here's what I think about the Rangers versus Florida. Everyone loves the Rangers D. I love all those guys individually, although I think Adam Fox stole his Norris. There's no way he's a better defenseman than about 8 guys in the league, but he's okay. I love Keandre. We know True, but Schneider's a good kid. Lindgren's good. They're all great. I don't think they play as a unit as good as some of their parts, but here's what they like doing. They like pinching. They like being up ice. They like a pretty pass. They like an open ice hit. They like knocking someone in the corner. You know what they don't like to do? Play dirty in front of their net. And you know who loves to play dirty in front of the net? Kachuk and Sammy Bennett and Verhaeghe and all the big cat Florida Panthers. And they're going to be eating that bone. And you know who gets rattled instantly? Is Igor Shesterkin, and he is going to have his hands full with those big cats coming in his kitchen. And if you think that Kachuk and those guys are afraid of Remke or Trouba or anybody else, you're sadly mistaken. And I think the big cats are going to be eaten all day long in Igor Shesterkin's kitchen, and he's going to fly off the handle many, many, many times. Now, can they stop Zibanejad and Breadman and Kreider, who's on fire, and our boy Vinny T? I don't know. But I think it's going to be a high-scoring series, and I think the big cats will give them everything they can handle.
Yeah, I think it's a really good series. That's a good point, Joe, about Shesterkin. He's a drama queen. He likes to talk. He likes to flop. We see him do it all the time.
Get shot with a bazooka anytime you touch him.
He does. Well, Florida will touch him. They're not afraid.
Yeah.
They will take runs at him. I think I tweeted earlier this year, like Florida's got 5 of the 10 dirtiest players in the league. And yet I kind of like them. I think they're the villains that the NHL needs. Like they're fun bad guys. They really are. Looking at this series, it's a great series. I'm really looking forward to it. I give Florida the edge. I think they're deeper. I think their bottom 6 is better. And they are a physically abrasive team. I don't think the Rangers really want to play that way. It's not that they're not capable, but that's more of a Florida style. If they can get it to be kind of a nasty series, I think they will. And they're a lot like Dallas. I just don't see weaknesses. They're so good defensively. I think their blue line is really underrated probably. And again, same thing I said about Vancouver. If you're Florida, if you just keep games 5-on-5, I have no doubt the Panthers are the better team. That Rangers power play is scary. You got to keep it off the ice. But if it's a strictly 5-on-5 series, I think Florida's better. I think the experience they had last year will only help them. And we should mention their goaltender too, because that guy, for all that he used to be something of a playoff choke artist, he's really figured it out in the postseason. Bobrovsky's a really good goaltender, and I thought he did a nice job against Boston. The Bruins never really went away in that series. That they're just a tough team to kill. But Florida was so clearly better in that series. They're a tough team to beat.
Well, you're exactly right, Josh, and that's a great point. Because I also think that Bobo made a ton of big time saves against Boston, just big time saves, and the Rangers dying out on not that many chances, but the Breadman and Kreider, they make the most of their chances. So, and the Carolina Hurricanes goaltending couldn't make those big saves. Whereas I think Bobo can make those big saves. When it's a 2-on-1 or a breakaway, it's like Bobo will come up big in those situations. So it's going to be.
We saw that with these Rangers 2 years ago against the Penguins. You don't have to give them many chances. Like they will finish.
Right.
They have world-class finishing skill, no question about it. But I still think there are some flaws in their game 5-on-5 that you can really take advantage of. And I've kind of thought for a while, even though I admit I was on the Carolina bandwagon for a while, maybe just, I don't know, it's fun to pick somebody different sometimes. But I've been saying most of the year, I think Florida's the best team in the East. I just think they're the most complete. They can beat you in so many different ways. So I give them the edge, but I will very much look forward to watching this series. I think the entertainment value, you're going to have Kachuk and company running amok at MSG, causing problems. It's going to be good theater for sure.
And also, Florida's D is a lot rougher and meaner than any of the D they faced so far.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Washington's D didn't show up, and Carolina's D is a very finessey kind of defense.
Correct. Now, this is not the matchup the Rangers wanted, I don't think.
No, and I hope it parlays into getting a Dallas versus Florida Stanley Cup, because I love whenever it's something like that, like a Sun Belt teams, and it's just driving everyone nuts up north of the border. Whenever they watch, Vegas winning the Stanley Cup before, like in 1993, when the Canadians won the Cup, if you went to somebody and said, "Hey, there's going to be a team in Las Vegas that wins the Stanley Cup before a Canadian team does again," nobody would have believed you. So I'm pulling all for it.
You're right. There is something amusing about it. There will only be one Canadian team left after Monday night, and whether it's Edmonton or Vancouver in the Western Conference Final, I have to think Dallas is a pretty prohibitive favorite, given the teams they just eliminated, given that they're pretty healthy and just the way they're playing. I have all the respect in the world for the Oilers and the Canucks. They will both be decided. They would both be decided underdogs, I think, in that series.
And they're odds-on favorites right now to win the Stanley Cup, and I think that's saying something, not knowing who their opponent is.
What's interesting of all of that is hopefully Besser could be healthy, but if Demko could be healthy, but do you throw him into the fire? Because Shilov's played great. I mean, he's not Demko.
He's not been a problem. He's been a great story. He's been really good.
That's what I mean. But what do you do? What do you do?
He's probably played better than Casey DeSmith would have.
Oh, the worst thing that Nashville's, that's what they were pissed about down there. They're like, we should have won that series, the officiating. I go, what the officiating? You shouldn't have ran into DeSmith. You should have put bubble wrap around him. He wasn't going to stop anything.
That's right. I mean, listen, we know that Demko's still their guy. So if he's healthy and ready to go, I would bet they would put him in. But the goaltending's held up for Vancouver. And how about the job that Rick Tocchet has done getting the Canucks just to play defense first to help protect their goaltenders? I mean, I don't think that's the style they want to play with all the offensive firepower they have. But I think, Rick has realized in this postseason, hey, we're going to have to win some low-scoring hockey games too. We can't just, try to score goals like we were doing in October and November. And it's worked. Hard not to cheer for the man. I will be pulling for Dickie Tocchet on Monday night. He's one of my favorite people in the sport, and what a job he has done.
Well, he got Quinn Hughes to buy in, which maybe isn't as hard. He got JT Miller to buy in, and it's living proof.
Which is hard.
It's living proof that you got to get your guys to buy in, which is why the big coaching hire of the season that happened Friday is huge to me. the Chief up in Toronto.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up with Berube in Toronto.
They needed that. They need someone that can go in there and flip over a catering table and shake, and yell at everybody, and then not the next day have to apologize. Because I think Sheldon Keefe is a good man, a good person. I think he's a decent hockey coach. He just wasn't the right man there. I think like in Columbus or somewhere lower expectations, I think he'd be a pretty good coach. But when he ripped his stars, he had to apologize the next day in the press. Right. The Chief is not going to apologize to the press in Toronto.
No, he certainly will not. I think Craig Berube is a really good coach. He's tough as nails. One of my favorite stories in Penguins history, by the way, involves Craig Berube. You will remember this game, Joe, when the Penguins won a playoff game at the Spectrum in 1989. The old 2-9er won Game 3 in overtime.
Yes, sir.
The very beginning of that game, he had to fight Craig Berube.
Yes,
and
sir.
You say, why is that? Well, at the opening faceoff, Berube just skated up to him and said, "Hey, we're going to fight." And Borky thought to himself, "Oh, shit, I don't want to fight this guy." But it was 1989. It was a different time. You did what you had to do then. So he dropped the gloves, and all's well that ended well, as he wanted to. I always think about that when I see Berube. He always walks up to Borky before games and says, "Hey, Borky, want to fight?" Because I still remember that for all these years. He's a really good guy. I like him a lot. I think he's a terrific coach. He is what the Maple Leafs need. How will Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews and the big names respond to him? Which big names will even still be there, I don't know. But as usual, it's Toronto, so we will be watching. We will be judging. We will be amused by whatever happens. But, man, that is an interesting hire. But I applaud the Maple Leafs. I think it's a smart one.
It's a completely smart hire. Because all I do is follow the hockey news from around the world, which is basically Canada. I'm inundated with Toronto, so they had to get a good coach, and it couldn't be Todd McCullough. It had to be, if it wasn't going to be Sullivan or Coach Q, it had to be Berube. But what's funny now is Kyle Beach is coming out. I guess he's backing to get Q back in the league. So maybe Coach Q goes to Jersey.
It's possible.
It's scary for us because a good coach, and I love
coach
Lindy
with
Ruff.
that team would be bad.
I love Lindy Ruff. I don't know what happened there, but I love Lindy Ruff. He was super cool to me personally. I think he's a great coach. Just never had goaltending when he needed it, except when he had Ashley. But okay, they get Q or they got Berube. They're immediately better than the Penguins. I mean,
on paper. Paper, they absolutely are better than the Penguins right now. And we've certainly heard Sheldon Keefe's name linked to the Devils. I will be curious to see what finally happens there. That team has so much talent that they never should have missed the playoffs, really. I know there were people banged up last year and the goaltending betrayed them. That team's way too good to be missing the playoffs, and I suspect they will have a pretty big jump next season. I thought they could be a cup contender entering the season.
Josh.
I was wrong. They just impressed me so much the year before. What they did against the Rangers in that series, man, that was impressive. It really was. So, keep an eye on the Devils moving forward. But that's a job that a lot of people would want because of the talent on hand.
Josh, though, and I'm not trying to defend Lindy Ruff. He already has a job. But the goaltending was terrible. It wasn't like they could have got better goaltending. It was terrible. Like yes. It was bad.
The Devils. The Devils thinking, it couldn't have been better for me because my brother-in-law is a Devils fan and bought season tickets this year and was like, kind of rubbing in my face that, they were going to be better than us. And then he's a Jets fan too. And Aaron Rodgers, blows his Achilles. And I tell him, hey, good news, Devils season starts soon. And that fell apart. So he just wasted a couple grand on tickets. And that was, but he'd be happy. He'd be happy with somebody like, obviously not getting Berube, but
I thought Berube might have taken that job because he lives like right in Philly. Like he lives pretty close to the where the Devils are at, and I guess he wants the big job and good for the Chief. But it's scary because I'll tell you the way Philadelphia is, they're going to implode earlier next season. But but the Devils falling out was really the Penguins' really chance. Like yes. I never thought the Devils would be as bad as they were this year.
No, I mean, entering the season, I really felt like the Rangers, Carolina, and the Devils were just head and shoulders better than the Penguins. And their only real chance would be a wild card
Yeah.
because those three teams are so good. And the Devils, were hugely disappointing. They really were. And you're right about the Flyers. They are going to take a step back next season. I almost guarantee it. They were, and I give Torch credit for what they did this year. But on paper, that was a really unimpressive hockey team. I'm sorry.
No, and that's why, and that's the beauty of having Torts there. As much as it gives me a headache, and I hate how it's like the Lou Holtz camera. Every shot is of him, not even of the hockey game.
Right.
They're never going to suck where they're going to get the lottery with him as the coach. So let them be mediocre forever. Like coach forever
That's
there,
right.
Torts.
That's what I was going to say. Don't take a step back, but not too far back. We don't want to get any lottery chances there. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think Berube to Toronto, and Josh, I don't want to speak, for your, fellow writers, but I mean, I guess I can say this because I'm not a writer, so it's the people that you have to deal with and see. But I think it's a match made in heaven watching the Toronto media have to deal with Berube, because it's not just the team; it's the media is going to be getting, hey, you want to fight, Borky?
Well, that's right, and you know what though, he brings instant credibility. I mean, he really does. And not only has he coached a team to a Stanley Cup, but his teams are always competitive, and he coaches a style in which the Maple Leafs, he brings what the Maple Leafs don't have, right? When you think of physical toughness, mental toughness, just overall team defensive work, those are always the Maple Leafs issues. A lot like the Penguins, honestly, in some ways. So he theoretically brings those things to the table. Let's see how things mesh in Toronto. And yeah, he's a no-nonsense guy. I mean, he'll tell the media how it is. He'll tell his players how it is. Let's see how the players respond. There's a lot of talent in Toronto. There's also, I think, some prima donna behavior. I don't know if they're going to like him as their head coach at first. They're going to have to deal with it, though, because he's not going anywhere. And he brings credibility, and they might have talent, but they don't have the credibility in Toronto that Craig Berube does.
No, I mean, the only thing that sucks, and then we can move on about Berube. The other thing that sucks, he's not going to be on TNT next year because, they need, after Taka left, they needed someone that could put Biz in his place to make Biz, keep his stick down. Now Biz will be running it. He runs amok. He runs him as soon as Talk. He was afraid of Talkett, and then in respect to Talk, he was afraid of him. And then
Lundqvist is great on TV, but he's too nice. I know.
Well, he did. It's just always fun whenever Biz. I love Biz. It's just always fun when Biz goes over the line a little bit, and you would just see Ricky T give him the glare, and that was it. And then Biz shut up, and the same thing happened. He got Berube a couple of times, and the Chief just looked at him like, "What?" And Biz calmed down. He'd bring everybody down.
Real quick, I wanted to ask you guys, just general media question with which broadcast do you guys prefer? To me, I kind of like the TNT broadcast. To be honest,
I like TNT way better.
I love the TNT. And did you see Hank just breaking down the V8 or whatever they called it, just MFing it? It was so true. Yeah. Now on ESPN, I love Bucci. And I love Levy, but Levy's got to call the game. He's one of the best play-by-play guys ESPN has. I don't know why he's just here. And I love Subban when he's not with Messier. When he's with Messier, he thinks he has to be the clown. But when it's just him, he has a lot of knowledge he drops. It's like, man, this guy knows what he's talking about. But as soon as he's next to Messi, he has to play like the clown. It's just like, and Messier has the charisma of a paperclip.
He's like a traffic cone.
Well, they hired Messier because the people who run ESPN are all Rangers fans, and thus they all love Mark Messier, which I understand. I think Subban's been disappointing. Actually, he's not terrible, but I've dealt with him. He's so smart and so charismatic. I feel like he should be better on TV than he is. Maybe that is what holds him back. I don't know. Like the ESPN, I'm glad hockey's on ESPN again. I think it's good for the league. Yeah. But I think TNT's coverage is better. I like their game broadcasters better. I like the production in general better. And the studio, it's not even close. Every time Lundqvist talks, you learn something about goaltending. Yeah, he's really good the way he breaks the game down. Biz has become one of the biggest figures in hockey, quite honestly. He's just so entertaining. And I miss Talk being on the show too, but whoever else they have on always works. I just feel like
great.
Of course. And I just feel like TNT puts more of itself into hockey coverage than ESPN does. I really like when games are on TNT.
Yeah, and I don't know why the ESPN, he's been on TNT a couple times, but I don't know why they lose Chelios. Like, that was ridiculous. It's like they kept Messier because of 1994. Or there's no doubt that Chelios is the much better announcer. But I wasn't a big Callahan guy as a player. Callahan's a pretty good announcer. I've grown to like him as an announcer. And all the women announcers are pretty good, but I love AJ Malesko. She does the Islander games. She knows her shit. That lady's
AJ's great.
She's great.
No, she really is.
Like I mean, she can be the lead announcer for the whole league. She could be like, I think she's fabulous. I really
would agree.
Yeah,
she calls the game.
Oh.
But TNT is much better.
I agree, and I never, flashback to me playing, NHL 2003, racking up like 30 goals with Paul Bissonnette. I never thought that Paul Bissonnette would have this big of a name in the NHL. And talk about a guy that's a marketing whiz.
He had a cup of coffee with I remember yearning for Biz. Like, can we get somebody tough? And when Biz was on the fourth line for a couple, I love Biz. I just think sometimes it's carried away. And I would just love when Tocchet would just stare at him like, come on.
Well, he's become the Charles Barkley of hockey commentators or studio hosts, whatever you want to call them. He really has. I mean, he's that guy. Some people don't like him, some do, but we are all entertained by him, and that's the whole point.
Yeah, yep. I think my final point is I just think he needs a counterbalance, which Hank doesn't do.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Like you said, Hank's a little too nice.
He looks good though. Jesus Christ, is a good looking man. He didn't take any pucks to the face. I mean, Jesus, that guy.
Every goddamn time he's on my television, I'm like, geez, this is a handsome man. I can't stop looking at him. It reminds me of the time like 10 years ago, I'm in the Rangers locker room. Staggy just walks up to him and he goes, God damn it, are you a good looking man? He just smiled and said thanks,
Staggy.
That's hilarious. That sounds like a Staggy story, in which, by the way, for summer programming, we got to get Staggy on, and that's probably going to be like a 5-hour podcast.
Oh yeah, it'll be 9 hours.
Yeah,
I love it. Should we talk some Penguins?
Yeah, let's. That'll do it for segment number 1. In segment number 2, we're going to get into the Penguins. Not much, but Letang injury and an announcement from the Penguins. What Coach Sullivan is doing. A couple jobs he got. Extra jobs because he didn't have enough to do these last couple springs. So we'll talk about that and more on segment number 2 for 2 for Talking. Welcome back into the second segment for 2 for Talking. The Penguins didn't have a bunch of news this week. The Letang injury came out. We all could tell something was wrong with him, but do you think, what were they saying it was? It was his hand or his thumb?
It was a finger.
Yeah.
A broken finger.
A broken finger that he had to have surgery for. He'll be back in time for next season. But was that really that big of a deal that it held him back? Because to me, I was hoping it was like, he was playing on half of a hamstring or something.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And honestly, Mike Sullivan, Kyle Dubas, after the season, they certainly made it out like Chris was dealing with some major medical issue. And I'm sure it's not fun playing hockey with a broken finger, but if you've seen Letang's Instagram, he's been working out in Montreal already in the offseason, as he always does. I don't think a broken finger would explain why he had so many mental mistakes, so many breakdowns, why he just looked like a completely different player in the second half as opposed to the first half. And I know he's always been a little streaky. There have always been fluctuations in his game. But what we saw from him the last couple of months was some of the worst hockey we have ever seen from Chris Letang. I wonder, Joe, he simply may have been tired. Maybe he's finally starting to show signs of age. It was too many minutes. He started to wear down. That's just one theory. I don't know, but he was really bad at the end of last season, and I'm not going to use a broken finger as an excuse.
Josh, you could not have said it more eloquently or succinctly than me, and I agree with you 1,000%. I've had a long, curious relationship with Mr. Letang. I've loved him. I've hated him. I've blamed him. I've come around on him. He is the thunderbolt with me of emotions and where he's at with his Penguin legacy. But the beginning of this season, I thought he was damn near a Norris candidate. And then something happened. And I thought he had one of his real medical issues or something like I thought he had Brock Besser's problems. I don't know what was going on. Because if you're telling me a broken finger makes you make 3 bad pinches a game, like, it didn't seem like a finger was the problem. His shot wasn't a problem. It was his mental. It was giveaways were his problem. His not getting back in defense,
pinching
passes.
It in opportune times.
Yeah, it was literally all mental mistakes. I didn't see one time. Oh, that was his shot was never accurate. So I don't know what the problem is.
Well, for me, it was just the blown defensive assignments in front of his net. It was just constant every single game. And P.O. Joseph was actually playing pretty well. That was some of the best hockey we've seen from P.O.
Yeah.
And Letang just wasn't holding up his end of the bargain at all. So he was really bad in the second half. And I hate trying to play doctor with him because I know it's not fair. But he's had 2 strokes. And if you look back at the 2 strokes, one was 2 seasons ago, the other one was 2014, I believe. Those few months leading up to when he had the stroke, he played horribly. He was just playing awful hockey on both occasions. So every time I see him in a funk, like I immediately think, oh man, I hope there's not something wrong with him. I hope there's not bad news coming down the road with him, because you can't help but think about it with him.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I thought they were going to say. That he was having trouble.
His situation is so unique.
I thought they were going to say he's going to take. When they said he's been bad, I think they'd take the summer off and reevaluate in October what his future was. It was. He seemed like he was playing so bad, and you had the big guys announcing it. What a tragedy the end of the season was for him. I'm thinking, oh my God, this is terrible. And it's like it was a bad finger. It almost seems like it's a red herring. I swear to God, it almost seems like they're not telling the truth.
Well, I mean,
let's hope it's only a finger.
Yeah, I mean, it's just trying to assess him is so different than any other player because no one else has these symptoms or this kind of a history. So with Letang, it's different. And the scary thing about him, he's had 2 strokes. I think a lot of people. He's 37 now. You're 37. You've won 3 cups. You're probably in the Hall of Fame. You've made $100 million, whatever it is. You got a beautiful wife, 2 beautiful kids. How many people would just retire at this point, right? When you've had those problems. You ask Chris Letang about retiring, he literally looks at you like you're crazy. He doesn't want to hear it. He is so obsessed with playing hockey. I really think, if teams will have him, he'll play well into his 40s. I really think he'll be one of those guys. I just wonder if his health will let him.
Josh, just think of the statement you just made. He had 2 strokes.
I know.
How many NHL players have 1 stroke? I mean, the only thing I remember is Rich Peverly had the heart attack in Dallas on the bench in the second period, and they pumped him up, and he tried to go back in the third. And they said, no, Rich, you're sitting down. And he never did come back. So the fact that Letang came back from 2 strokes is patently ridiculous.
Oh, and the second one, he was only out, I think, 2 weeks when he came back. And I know for a fact, the only reason he's still allowed to play, again, I am not a doctor, but there are different kinds of strokes. And some strokes, you have to stay on blood thinners for the rest of your life or for a certain amount of time. I know that much. And the kind of strokes that he's had do not require blood thinners. If he had to be on blood thinners, you can't play hockey when you're on blood thinners.
Yeah,
that's just the way it is.
Because if you get cut with a stick, you bleed to death. Is that?
Well, yeah, I mean, you could literally die right there on
internal
the ice.
organs too. Like if you anything like that, like you're more susceptible to bleeding. I'm not a doctor either, but
think of how many times the EJ went in the crease with like 30 cold heinies in him. Took a puck to the face. You guys living on the edge.
EJ's the greatest because I mean he was once had to go to the hospital because Bobby Orr hit him with a slap shot and he didn't have his helmet on. like during warm-ups. That was the worst one. But then a couple of years ago, EJ was golfing with Jay Caulfield. And I don't know how this happened, but Jay's drive literally hit EJ in the head. And
poor
EJ,
guy,
so
like
he's
how long
fine.
it's been since he's gotten out of
EJ's 89 years old. He just keeps on ticking. He's the greatest.
I mean, but
He's still taking
without a mask.
objects to the dome.
Without a mask.
Yeah, of all the guys I wouldn't want to hit me in the head with a golf ball, I think Jay Caulfield would rank fairly high on that list as well.
He probably uses heavier golf balls than everybody else too, Jay.
I'm sure he does.
Yeah.
He golfs with baseballs.
Yeah.
The way. Other Penguin news this week: Mike Sullivan is announced as the Team USA hockey coach for the Gary Bettman Invitational, the 4-nation face-off, whatever that is.
I'm very happy for Sully. I thought he got screwed when he missed to go to coach the Olympic team in COVID.
Yeah,
I couldn't be any happier for him. It's an honor. I love it for Sullivan, but I think the whole thing is a sham. I think when you don't have Russia, I think it's a sham.
Yep.
And I don't care what anybody says. And it's just because the Canadians are scared, they're playing this political game. They just don't want to face the Russians. I'll die on that hill.
And Sullivan will, he'll be also. I mean, we all know this, but I realized I didn't get it out, was that he'll be the 2026 Olympic coach too. So I mean, he will have a shot there to do the real tournament. But yeah, this 4-nation face-off again. I mean, Josh, what do you think? Politics aside, like I know there's reasons that people will use, but how do you have a hockey tournament and not have Russia in it?
It's embarrassing, in my opinion. It completely invalidates the tournament. Of the 10 best goaltenders in the world, I think about 7 of them are Russian. And I realize Russia hasn't won many of these tournaments lately. You still have to have them there. It's just the way it is. This could rob Ovechkin of his last chance to play in an international tournament, maybe Malkin as well. Since the players are going to the Olympics, which is a real tournament, I don't understand why this earlier tournament exists. I guess it will make them some money, but I think it's patently absurd. That said, I love Olympic hockey, as we all do, and I'm really happy for Mike Sullivan. He was supposed to be the Olympic coach in 2020. COVID hits, or whatever year it was. Yeah, I think it was 20, right? And then COVID hit, so he didn't get the chance. David Quinn ended up coaching the Olympic team. But I'm glad Sully gets the chance. Billy Guerin's the GM. Of course, there is a relationship there. But Sully's a really good coach, and I know some people want him out. Maybe he's the right coach for the Penguins. Maybe he's not at this point. But that doesn't mean he's not overly qualified to be Team USA's coach. He commands immediate respect. And who knows the competition better than Sully when he's going to be coaching against Sidney Crosby and Erik Karlsson of Sweden, and probably if Russia's there, Gino Malkin. Like he certainly knows the competition well, and I'm glad he's getting this opportunity.
And he'll get to coach Snake again, and maybe Rusty, and at least it won't be Tortorella and have to worry about him paying someone to slash and break Sid's wrist. That's all I do. That's all I do in international competition is pray Sid and Gino don't get hurt. That's all I do.
That's fair. By the way, Team USA should be really good.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have like Austin Matthews and Jack Hughes and Tage Thompson and Jack Eichel down the middle.
Yeah,
maybe that's not quite Crosby and McDavid and McKinnon, but it's not that far off. Mike Sullivan's going to have some talent.
How about Austin Matthews with the 2 Kachuk brothers on the wings?
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I think can you imagine the Kachuk brothers just running amok in Italy? They might get kicked out of the Olympics. I mean, I can't wait.
I literally break out in a sweat when I look at the U.S. roster. It's going to be sick. Oh. It's going to be like '96 when we really have a chance. Like we really have a chance.
I'm dying to see a U.S. gold
and then
medal.
Have Sully be the coach. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome.
What torture for USA Hockey Penguin fans that 2002 you silver medal to Mario, and 2010 silver medal to Sid. It's like I can't. I mean, it's just such a weird feeling to watch that.
It is, and I'm just hoping the Athletic is okay sending me to Italy to cover this event, because I I will write lots of articles. I will behave myself, but that wouldn't be the worst gig in the world, right? And I mean, Olympic hockey, there's just something special about it. I know studies have found that it doesn't really help the NHL in terms of ratings or, growing fans for the NHL product. I don't know why that is, but I do know that hardcore hockey people like us, we just love watching it. There's nothing else like it. No. So I really think it's going to be great. I don't care about the other tournament. I think it's a sham, but the Olympics in 2026, bring it on. I can't wait to see it.
And shout out to the women's tournament. I love the women's tournament. Like, it's always first before the men's. And, I think it's great hockey. I mean, the USA-Canada rivalry in women's hockey
that's the best rivalry in hockey right now. It really is.
I was at the game when Amanda Kessler won in the shootout. I was in Korea at that game. Yeah, I went to the only Olympics the pros didn't show up in the last 40 years. But I got to watch the ladies play. I watched the men. It was fantastic fun. But I got to see the ladies beat Canada. It was incredible. In a shootout. Amanda Kessler. It was great stuff.
No, it's the best rivalry in the sport. Make no mistake. It really is.
Yeah. And I think if we maybe blow this podcast up to that point, then we can also get ourselves over there, and Joe can then go through Italy and hit all the churches again and start praying for the Penguins. Because that could be.
Bring your mom. Bring Ange to Italy. She can do the Ange hover in Italy. I've been thinking about the Ange hover all week.
Oh yeah, she can hover over Sid. She can hover over Sully.
Yeah, bring us a gold medal. We'll take Ange over and have her take Joe to every church you can find and pray for the Penguins, and then she can use her healing hands to bring a gold medal to the U.S. and make sure that Sid does get through injury free.
2026, we'll probably still have the big three.
Yeah, I know, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
Sully'll still be coaching the Penguins. It'll be the same.
Yeah, we'll still suck on the power play.
Yeah.
That'll do for segment number 2. Coming back on the third segment, Paul Skeens had a nice start, and there's some Cam Hayward stuff, and also ideal Memorial Day spreads. So stay tuned for that and more on Two for Talking. Welcome back to Two for Talking. The final segment here, we're going to talk about Paul Skeens, which, by the way, I just freaking love this guy, and I don't see any way the Pirates even can mess this up. It's like the first time the Pirates have something that is really, really legit. And Joe, I know you're not the big baseball follower. I don't know if you saw it on Friday. He had a no-hitter going through 6 innings in his second MLB start. But
did they take him out because he threw too many pitches?
Yes.
Right. That's why you wonder why I don't follow baseball. There's some bullshit. Oh, the guy's a no-hitter. Wait a second. He threw 60 pitches. He's only 20 years old. He's not a man yet. He can't buy a beer. He better not pitch. Oh, he's a little girl. Get it out of here. Let the guy throw until his arm falls off. He hasn't given up a hit. What's the problem? It's like drug testing Nikushkin. The guy hasn't given up a hit. We got to take him out of the game. That's just stupid. I love the stash. He's got the best stash.
Oh, he's got a good stash, and that's what a big stash Skeens, and he I had to check on my father-in-law who's in his 70s because anytime a pitcher gets pulled out too early, his blood pressure goes through the roof, and I was like, "Are you okay? Like, you might be having a heart attack right now. Do you need me to call 911?" Josh, what did you think of his first of all his play, but second of all, come on, let him keep pitching.
Well, along those lines, I was actually thinking of Grandpa Yohe, who passed away 15 years ago. Absolutely was turning in his grave when Skeens was taken out of the game. That was driving him nuts 20 years ago. So I know how the old schoolers feel about it. I don't like it. I mean, I understand it on some level, I guess, from a health standpoint, but I just think it's bad for baseball. And I think analytics have helped kill baseball. I think decision-making like this, it's just not an entertaining game right now. I'm sorry, it's not. There's nothing more fun than seeing somebody try to get a no-hitter, right? You don't see it anymore. That said, Paul Skeens is special. I mean, listen, it's been 2 starts. Dude struck out the first 7 batters he faced on, was it Thursday or Friday?
Yeah.
Like you just don't see that happen. No, starting pitchers just don't strike out the first 7 people they face. The last pitch of the game he threw at the end of the 6th inning was still clocked at 100 miles per hour. This is a different kind of guy.
Yeah.
And with Skeens and Jared Jones and Mitch Keller as your top 3, and they're all young. I mean, the Pirates should have something. Now, I'm not going to say they can't screw it up because they've got the cheapest owner in the sport, and I don't think their talent evaluators are very good. I don't think their coaching staff's very good. But my God, if they would just spend some money on the lineup next year, the year after, you have to think they're a playoff contender with these kinds of arms in your starting rotation. And the National League's just not that good.
They should make the wild card this year because there's 7 teams that make the playoffs now. I think they're like a game and a half out. It's like literally go to the rent-a-player store and find somebody that's better than Rowdy Tellez.
Get a first baseman. It can't be that hard. There's got to be one out there.
There's got to be somebody that can hit a couple home runs and bat better than 187.
Right, and I hate to get ahead of ourselves here. Trust me. But when I just look at how the Pirates, all of a sudden, this talent they have in the rotation, like that's how you win in baseball in the playoffs. Like it really is. Like you get arms like these are rare arms, but it's the Pirates, so it's impossible for me to have any faith that they're going to do the right thing and actually try to win. I hope they do. That would be great.
Well, I don't want Skeens' arms worn. I don't want his arm worn out before he becomes a Yankee in 3 years. So, yeah,
Did you see who posted that? They said,
I didn't know.
Not that joke, but somebody posted that the Yankees were looking forward to seeing Skeens come up, to see how he handles, quad A before he makes it to the Yankees. It's sad but true. But I love Skeens too because he's got that kind of the alpha dog that like the Pirates need. I don't know if you saw the interview he did with I forget her name, that the sideline reporter
and
Pirates. And she said, now that the teams are going to have some tape on you and everything and maybe be able to adjust, what do you think about that? And he said, good luck. Man,
I like it. No, they haven't had this kind of swagger. We haven't seen this kind of swagger on the Pirates since AJ Burnett was in town. So I like that somebody has that attitude. That's a great thing. And I'm curious to see how many people keep coming to PNC Park on nights he pitches. The Pirates haven't had many attractions in a while. This guy might be a real box office attraction, which is something they could use.
Well, and here's my why I also think they're really onto something is that I'm coaching my kids, baseball team, coaching multiple baseball teams because that's how youth sports works. Whenever they find out you'll volunteer, they're just like, hey, we're going to put you in every position you possibly can do. But the kids on the team are all talking about Paul Skeens, and they're when they strike somebody out, they're doing his little jump that he does afterwards. And my son started emulating his jump over the sideline or over the foul line to get on and off the field. I was like, holy crap. The Pirates have something here. They got to hold on to this. This is a chance here to do something.
Oh, he was the talk of the baseball world for his first couple starts.
And as much as I love McCutchen, he wasn't that dynamic.
No.
He was a good player, but he wasn't that dynamic.
This guy's a different kind of talent. I hope the Pirates do not screw him up. That's my only request.
Well, other news in the Steelers world, we have Cam Hayward sitting out, which Cam's contract is up at the end of this year. And Cam, Father Time, he's in a race with Father Time. I don't know. Boy, I love Cam Hayward. I love him as a player. I think he's a great ambassador for the city and the sport and in the work he does with charities. And again, he's just a beast on the field. When he gets that left arm locked on somebody and is just shoving an offensive lineman back into the quarterback, there's nothing cooler to see. But I don't know if I'd extend him, to be honest. I don't think that's really the best interest of the Steelers. Do you think Cam's going to sit out? He's just missing the voluntary workouts, but he's never missed any before. This is the first time he's ever skipped any team activity. And he came out and said on his podcast that he wants to be a Steeler forever and he wants an extension. So
it's all, football in your underwear. Cam, sit out until 3 days before the first game of the year. Why get hurt? Why he's whatever. He's 38 years old. Why stress yourself out? Get in shape in the first game and then play the rest of the season. But don't give him any more money. No.
Yeah, would you extend him?
He's been declining and he's old. Play hardball with him. I love the guy too. We used to have the same age. He's a great guy. But just facts are facts. But but don't go. No one has to be upset. The saga. Don't come in. Don't relax. Enjoy the summer with your family. You're not going to get better playing football in August. We know how good he is. No. Save your legs for December. Save your legs for when you looked old in December. That's when we're playing all our division games. So be rested.
I'm curious to see how Omar Khan and Andy Weidel handle this. I kind of feel like Kevin Colbert would have just kind of given Cam what he wanted because he's Cam, and that's kind of the way the Steelers always worked. Not always, but I guess Troy Polamalu, wasn't necessarily ready to leave when he was done. But in Cam's case, he's clearly on the decline. He can't really stay healthy anymore. Mm-hmm. I love him. He's Walter Payton Man of the Year. I've dealt with him. He's just a wonderful human being. I will never say a bad word about Cam Hayward. He's a real Steeler. And I don't say that about just anybody, especially in this era. He really is. He's a throwback. He's the kind of guy the city loves. I don't know that he has much to give after this season. Certainly you keep him this year and hopefully he rebounds a little bit. I don't know that I'd pay him past that. He might not like it, but I'm sorry. It's a business, and the Steelers have gotten rid of better players than Cam Hayward over the years when they thought they were done, and I don't think they should proceed any differently here.
Franco was a Seahawk. They just show him that video.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, and the only one, obviously, one of the only ones they regret is Rod Woodson. I mean, if they walk away from Rod Woodson, then, I like Cam, everything he's done.
Everybody likes Cam, and Cam should play this year, and Cam shouldn't go to camp. He should relax anyway. Why is Cam?
That's fine.
Why is Cam have to? They don't even. It's not even really camp. They're all in shape all year round now. It's not like they have to go to Latrobe and sweat it out. It's like
these spring workouts are garbage. They're nothing, especially for a veteran. If you're a rookie, does it help a little bit? Probably. For guys like Cam who've been around TJ Watt, but they don't need to be there they really don't. There's no reason at all.
The best thing really the only reason why it is a little bit of a deal. It's a little deal. The reason why it's such a big deal is, Gino's golfing, and so that's why the Penguins were in the playoffs. There wouldn't even be like what Cam and Miss OTAs would be like on the page 9. But now it's like literally as soon as the Penguins were eliminated, it's like Steelers season started. That's why it's a big deal. That's face.
But I didn't throw this out there ahead of time, but I'll throw it out. What do you guys think of? Because Joe, you brought it up a little bit. That murderer's row of the schedule. I mean, they don't play a division game until week 11.
The division. I think it's good that we can find out what we have in Russell Wilson earlier. I think it's good that our two big linemen now we don't have to worry about, they'll both probably be starting where they should be, where they were drafted to be by the end of the year. And then we'll play the division guys. So I think it's better that we have some practice games, if you will, before we face the meat of the schedule.
Yeah. And, it's easy to say the second half of the schedule looks like a nightmare, and it does. We were saying the same things last year, and then Joe Burrow got hurt, and then Lamar Jackson got hurt. Like, you don't know who's going to be healthy when November, December rolls around anyway. And I would also suggest the Steelers really in general, but especially the last couple of years, they play really well against their division. They like playing against Baltimore. Look at Lamar Jackson's numbers against the Steelers compared to every other team. So I don't think having to play their division opponents is necessarily a bad thing. Having the Chiefs and Eagles in that, in theory, that's not ideal. But I still think the Steelers' schedule is pretty soft, especially from about weeks 4 through 8 or so. That they can put themselves in a pretty good position. You don't know who's going to be good and who's not going to be good in the NFL from one year to the next. You really don't. I think we all love football, so everyone goes crazy when the schedule's released. But when I see other people doing, the Steelers are going to go 10-7 and win, loss, win, like you don't know
no
what's
idea.
going to happen 6 months from now.
And the worst thing that could happen is we lose to those teams at the beginning of the year, and then we can never catch up to them because we don't play them
Right.
again. So this way,
That's
at
right.
least, no matter how it goes, we're going to have a chance at the end because we're seeing everybody at the end.
Yeah, no, I'm okay with that. I think it's fun.
Yeah,
And
me too.
I think, I mean, what a great, perfect time to pick Kansas City, to draw Kansas City. Christmas Day at home. So it's a short week for Kansas City on the road. They might have a lot of things wrapped up at that point. Like, you don't know where Kansas City's going to be. It's, week 17. I don't know.
Maybe Taylor Swift will just change Christmas.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
She's going to be there.
Maybe she'll just tell you which day Christmas is. Maybe
we should invite her to a Yinzer tailgate party beforehand.
Oh my god!
Some eggnog with Taylor at the tailgate party. I don't know.
Just ruined Taylor Swift.
By the way, I hate games on Christmas, like Steelers games on Christmas.
It's awful.
Like I don't mind if Green Bay is playing Miami on Christmas. That gives me something to watch. But when it's the Steelers, you're a little personally invested. But like, you got family coming over, you got Christmas stuff to worry about. It's like the 4th time in 8 years the Steelers have played on Christmas. I'm getting a little tired of it.
1977. Joe Green punched a lineman from the Denver Broncos and got kicked out of the game against the Orange Crush when Denver went on to lose to Dallas in the Super Bowl. That was a Christmas Eve game. It ruined Christmas because they threw Mean Joe out of that game. Yeah, I don't like Christmas games. Yeah. I like when I was a kid. Dr. J played on Christmas. That's all the sports I need on Christmas. There was the Sun Bowl, and then there was the doctor made a house call on Christmas. That's all.
And that was fun.
Yeah,
we were all happy then. And it's on a Wednesday. I don't want to watch football on a Wednesday. Like, what are we doing here? I understand the money involved, but it's so forced at this point. That's
what it is. It's the money involved. But we got Memorial Day coming up, right, Corey?
Yeah, Memorial Day. Which, first of all, by the way, I mean, Joe, you're going to be on DVE a lot this week, I think. And DVE, shout out to them. We'll have the Memorial Day 500, which is always great to listen to. But what's your guys' ideal Memorial Day spread? Because I feel like Memorial Day kind of flies under the radar. Everybody thinks 4th of July, but Memorial Day is like the kickoff. Like, hey, here's where summer's starting. And me personally, it's like burger, a hot dog, a burger and a dog, deviled egg. A good deviled egg with like some nice spices on top of it, and then some macaroni salad. That's, and maybe a little. Watermelon won't be there right now. That'll be 4th of July. But I mean, what do you guys think? What's your ideal spread?
I love when my mom still does it sometimes, but my grandmother would always make the hot sausages with, they call it the jambaltala, when it's all like the peppers and the onions and the red sauce, and you get the big Italian roll and you stick it in.
Oh yeah,
that's my favorite. My mom can also, though, she can pivot, and she makes a really good Isley's chipped ham with the red sauce.
Oh,
she doesn't use the jar. She makes her own homemade version of it. That's really good too.
We call those ham barbecues. Is that what you guys call them?
I forget what we call them. We haven't had it in so long. I haven't been home for Memorial Day in so long. But I do like, I still like a weenie. It's a regular weenie, relish, onions, and yellow mustard. I like burgers. I like everything. But I don't really like potato salad for some reason.
I hate potato salad as well. I don't like potato salad or macaroni salad, but just hearing Joe talk, I gotta say, the Italians do the holidays much better. Like, all my Italian friends, like, oh, we have this at Christmas. Like, what the hell? I'm having like turkey or ham. Like, you guys really got it all figured out. I agree with all the choices. I always enjoy the nice big bowl of baked beans on Memorial Day as well. For some reason, you can never go wrong with some baked beans being around. So yeah, I think that pretty much sounds like the ideal spread, what we've put together. And I love Memorial Day, by the way. I like Labor Day to me was always like, oh shit, got to go back to school tomorrow.
Yep.
Like when I was a kid, but Memorial Day, like summer's here. I think it's a very underrated weekend. In fact.
Oh yeah, I agree. To me, the Jerry Lewis telethon was like death. It was like
Yeah.
there was 3 channels, and you had to watch it because you never knew when
had to.
Sinatra was going to come out. You never knew when Sinatra was going to come out, so we had to watch it all day long. There was nothing else on, and then school was the next day. I agree.
Yes.
Memorial Day, there's hope, there's fun. I agree
Yep.
1000%. And this is the plug, and this is the plug. I had Martin's barbecue in Nashville this weekend. Maybe the best baked beans I've ever had in my life.
Ooh.
And not to name drop, but Wilbur Burr confirms as well. Because
does he?
because I was sitting there, I'm like, these beans are great. He's, these beans are great. I'm like, yeah, like these are just fantastic. The next day in the car, I'm like, yeah, it was good barbecue. He goes, dude, how about those beans? And I'm like, yeah. I go, he goes, they're the best beans I had in my life. I go, you know what? They might have been. Like, I've never had better beans. I may have had comparable beans. So if you're in Nashville for the Preds game next year, it's like 3 blocks from the arena. Get Martin's barbecue.
Martin's
All right.
barbecue.
Consider it done.
The comic sent you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Josh will be there.
You get the beans.
Yeah. And then
Joe,
that sausage, I started sweating just at the thought of it. Because I love those sausages, but I know exactly what you're talking about. And as soon as you start to eat it, I just start to sweat.
Oh, it's the best. You get a couple cold ones. Yeah. So, but before Memorial Day, come see me at the Improv this Thursday, May 23rd.
Yes.
With my Puckoff co-host Andy Picaro. We got August.
How did that thumbs up just show up on the screen? Did you see that?
What happened?
Like a thumbs up showed up on the screen.
Yeah, I clapped. I thought it was like the clapper, and I clapped, and a thumbs up came up.
It's AI.
Yeah, no, sorry. Go ahead, Joe.
No, that's it.
Who's on the bill
plug.
with you? Andy Picaro and
August Rose Jones, maybe others, but that's the big 3.
Nice.
And all 90. I'll do an hour, and 55 of it's not from my special. So if you're like, oh, we just saw that, nope. And it's a lot different than what I did when I sold out the brewery in Lawrenceville 2 shows. So a lot of different material. So come on out.
Yeah, and I also so go to improv.com. That's May 23rd. That's this coming Thursday. 8:00's the show. And then also you'll never when you're making your hot dog and you're throwing a little mustard on there, make sure you watch.
Come on.
Make sure you watch Joe's special, and you'll never ever put your mustard on your hot dog the same way again.
You know what's so funny about that? My mother said to dinner tonight, she goes, every time I bring out the mustard, I think of your joke. I was like,
Okay, well, I know we got to run. I wanted to ask you, because I met your parents, with lovely people, by the way, when they came out of your show before the night show in November. What's it like telling dick jokes in front of your parents? I don't think I'd have the guts to do it. I think I'd play some like G-rated.
They're just happy I have a job.
They're just happy that you're not living in the basement still.
Yes.
Yeah.
Although I'm recording this show from my dad's office, which used to be my bedroom. That's why it doesn't have any penguins things hanging out. I know what's saying. There's flowers.
Maybe his parents tell dick jokes, Corey. Who's to say?
That's true. That's true. I've never been at a Bartnick family gathering, so it could be.
There's lots of jokes. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. All right. Well, that'll do it for us here on 2 for Talking. If you want to email the show, it's the number 2 for Talking podcast at gmail.com. And you can follow us all on Twitter. And if you have any questions, just send those in, and we'll be happy to talk about them. And thank you guys for doing this. And we'll talk to you guys next week.